Hey, Chanth of ExamsNet. Welcome to the question series of ExamsNet. Students, you must have explored our website www.examsnet.com. This site is a great place for you to practice your entrance exam question papers because here you will find PDF of so many entrance exam question paper solutions, and you must download our app. The link is available in the description box. So today, students, we will be solving JEE Main 29th January Shift 1 2025 paper. Okay, so in this particular video I'll be solving the physics part of the paper. So starting with the very first question of the physics series, that is question number 26. The work done in an adiabatic change in an ideal gas depends upon only. Okay, so we have to find the work done in an adiabatic change in an ideal gas depends upon only in which property it depends upon. So we know that in an adiabatic process, the work done is equals to nr delta T over gamma minus 1, means among these four, the work done depends on temperature. So the correct answer is option B, means it depends on the only in the change in its temperature, not on volume, pressure or specific heat. So our answer is option B. Okay. Now question number 27. Two projectiles are fired with same initial speed from the same point on ground at an angles of 45 degree minus alpha and 45 degree plus alpha respectively. Okay, so according to question, two projectiles are fired. Let us say this is the first projectile having an angle of 45 minus alpha with the ground, and the other one is 45 plus of alpha with that of the horizontal direction. The ratio of their maximum height attained is, okay, let us say this is the first one and this is the second one. Okay, we know for such type of question, projectile motion question, the maximum height, h maximum, its formula is given as u square, where u is the initial speed, but here it is saying that two projectile are having same initial speed, u square sine square theta over 2g. Okay, so for the first one, means the one which is having an angle of 45 minus alpha, so for it h1 is equals to u square sine square 45 minus of alpha over 2g, and h2 will be equals to u square sine square 45 plus alpha over 2g. So when we divide equation 1 with equation 2, means when we divide h1 by h2, so u square 2g cancels out, so we get h1 over h2, it will be equals to sine square 45 minus alpha over sine square 45 plus alpha. Okay, now we can write it as sine 45 minus alpha whole square over sine 45 plus alpha over whole square. And we know that the formula sine A minus B. Sine A minus B is what? Sine A cos B minus cos A sine B. So sine A cos B means sine 45 minus alpha. It means sine 45 into cos alpha minus cos 45 into sine alpha. And sine 45 is what? Root 2 by 2 cos alpha. Cos 45 is also root 2 by 2 sine alpha. So taking root 2 by 2 common, so we get cos alpha minus of sine alpha. This is for h1, means for sine 45 minus alpha. Now again, if we write sine 45 plus alpha, so we'll use the formula sine A plus B, means sine A cos B plus cos A sin B. So again it will be sin 45 cos alpha plus cos 45 sin alpha. So solving it we get again root 2 by 2 cos alpha plus root 2 by 2 sin alpha. So it will be equals to under root 2 by 2 cos alpha plus sin alpha. Now putting the values of sin 45 minus alpha and sin 45 plus alpha from equation 1 and 2 from this, so we get h1 over h2 will be equals to this root 2 by 2 cos alpha minus sin alpha over root 2 by 2 cos alpha plus of sin alpha. So this root 2 by 2 cancels out each other. So from here we get h1 over h2 and their whole square also. Okay. So here will be cos alpha minus of sin alpha whole square over cos alpha plus of sin alpha whole square. Okay. So taking uh, cos alpha from it common. So we get, if we take cos alpha from it common, so we get cos square alpha and it will be 1 minus uh, sin alpha over cos alpha. Okay. And its whole square. And again, if we take, okay, not take cos alpha common, just expand this square. So if we expand this square, we get h1 over h2. So it will be a square plus b square minus 2ab and then again a square plus b square plus of 2ab. Okay, so it will be cos square theta plus sin square theta will be equals to 1. So it will be 1 minus 2 cos alpha sin alpha over 1 plus 2 cos alpha sin alpha, and 2 cos theta sin theta will be equals to sin 2 theta. So it will be h1 over h2 will be equals to 1 minus sin 2 theta means sin 2 alpha over 1 plus sin 2 alpha. So our answer is the ratio of the maximum height will be 1 minus sin 2 alpha over 1 plus sin 2 alpha means option 4 is the correct answer. Now question 28. Consider a long straight wire of circular cross section of radius A carrying a steady current I. So it is talking about a long straight wire. So the long straight wire always acts as a cylinder. Okay. The current I is flowing in it and it is having a radius A. The current is uniformly distributed across its cross section. The distance between the center of the wire's cross section at which the magnetic field inside the wire and outside the wire is half of the maximum possible magnetic field anywhere due to the wire. Okay, it is saying that uh, inside the wire and outside the wire, the distance from the centers of the wire of the cross section is equals to half of the maximum possible distance. Okay, so for inside the cylinder means for the inside the wire, we know that the magnetic field at a distance, let us say r, from the axis is equals to mu naught I over pi r square into r by 2. This is the direct formula. And the maximum possible magnetic field will be, for this cylinder it will be mu naught I over 2 pi r, and according to question this is equals to half of this, so we can write mu naught I over pi 2 pi r square into r. It will be equals to 1 by 2 into mu naught I over 2 pi capital R. Okay. So, uh, so this mu naught I will cancel out. 2 pi cancels out. R, 1 power R cancels out. So this R will be equals to R by 2. Okay. R will be equals to R by 2. So let us say this is first. And now for outside the wire. for outside the wire. So when we consider outside the case, at that time the magnetic field is equals to mu naught I over 2 pi r. This is the direct formula. So according to question, this mu naught I over 2 pi r is equals to half of the magnetic field, which is this mu naught I over 2 pi r. Mu naught I over 2 pi r. So here, it is capital R. So mu naught I will cancels out. 2 pi will cancel out. Okay. So, so it will be equals to, so this R, it will equals to this 2R. Okay. So for first case, this R is equals to R by 2 means for inside the wire, and for outside the wire R will be equals to 2R. So R by 2 and 2R. Okay, they have taken R as A. So it will be A by 2 and it will be 2A. A by 2 and 2A. So it means option A is the correct answer. Now next question 29. At the interface between two materials having refractive index N1 and N2. Okay, let us say this is an interface and it is having an refractive indices N1 and N2. The critical angle for reflection of an electromagnetic wave is theta 1 C. Let us say this is the angle of reflection and it is having an angle theta 1 C. The N2 material is replaced by another material having refractive index is N3. Now it is saying this N2 material is replaced by another material having refractive indices N3, and now the angle becomes theta 2C. Theta 2C. So it is saying if N3 is greater than N2, it is greater than N1, then N1 over N2 over N3 is this, and sine 2C minus sine theta 1C is equals to this. Okay, we have to find the value of this theta 1C. So let us say this is figure 1 and figure 2. From figure 1 and using Snell's law, we can write N2 sine theta 1C. It will be equals to N1. So from here we can write sine theta 1C will be equals to N1 over N2. Okay. Let us say this is equation number 1. Now for this second, we can write N3 sine theta 2C will be equals to N1. So sine theta 2C will be equals to N1 over N3. Let us say this is second. Okay. And we are given that N2 over N3 is 2 by 5. N2 over N3 is equals to 2 by 5. It means N3 will be equals to 5 by 2 N2. Okay, so put this here. So we get sine theta 2C will be equals to N1 over 5 by 2 N2. Okay, so it will be 2 by 5 N1 over N2. Okay. And also we are given that sine theta 2C minus sine theta 1C equals to 1 by 2. Sine theta 2C minus sine theta 1C equals to 1 by 2. Okay. Okay, so here sine theta 2C equals to 2 by 5 N1 over N2. So just put sine theta 2C here. So 2 by 5 N1 over N2 minus sine theta 1C. And theta 1C is N1 over N2 minus N1 over N2. It will be equals to 1 by 2. So 2 by 5. Now taking N1 over N2 common. So solving it 2 by 5 minus 1 will be equals to 1 by 2. So N1 over N2, it will be minus of 3 by 5 will be equals to N by 1 by 2. So from here, N1 over N2 will be equals to minus of 5 over 6. Okay. So theta 1c equals to n1 over n2 na, and we have to find theta 1c. So sine theta 1c, it is equals to minus of 5 by 6. So theta 1c equals to sine inverse minus of 5 by 6. Okay. So the correct answer is sine inverse minus of 5 by 6. Sine inverse minus. So no angle here is in terms of negative, means option E. None of the above is the correct answer. Now question 30. Let u and v be the distances of the object and the image from a lens of focal length f. The correct graphical representation of u and v for a convex lens. Okay. So if we talk about a convex lens, so from the lens formula, we know that 1 over v minus 1 over u is equals to 1 over f. Okay, so from here we can write 1 over v is equals to 1 over f plus 1 over u, where u is the object distance, v is the image distance, and f is the focal length. Now it is saying that u is greater than f. So if this object distance is greater than f, it means this term will be positive. Okay, so if this term will be positive, so the graph will, if we draw a graph between 1 by v and u, okay, if the graph is between 1 by v and u, so the graph will be like this. If this 1 over v is becoming positive, since u is greater than f, so the graph will be like this. Okay, so among these four options, the correct answer is option D. Now question 31. The pair of physical quantities not having same dimension is. Okay. So we have to find out among these four options which two quantities are not having same dimension. So if we talk about the torque, let us first talk about torque and energy. So we know that torque is equals to force into distance. The force is m l t minus 2 and distance is in terms of l. So it will be m l square t minus 2. And then energy. Energy is again, we know that ml2 t minus 2. So this is correct. Okay. And this angular momentum and Planck's constant. We know that angular momentum, it is having a dimension of ml2 t minus 1, and Planck's constant is also having dimension of ml2 t minus 1, means these both quantities are having same dimensions. Okay. Now if we talk about surface tension and impulse, so surface tension, its dimension is m t minus 2, and impulse, its dimension is mlt minus 1. So these, I think these are the physical quantities which are not having same dimension, means surface tension and impulse. So let's solve this also for pressure. We know that pressure is equals to force over area. So it will be force m L t minus 2 over area. Area is L square. So it will be m L minus 1 t minus 2. And then Young's modulus. So Young's modulus is stress over strain. So its dimension is also m L minus 1 t minus 2, means among these four options, this A, B and D, these three options having quantities having same dimension, but the option C, that is surface tension and impulse, these two physical quantities are having different dimensions of mt minus 2 and mlt minus 1. So our answer is option C. Now question 32. The expression given below shows the variation of velocity v with respect to time, and v is given as at square plus bt over c plus t. So the dimension of a, b, c. So, in this, whatever be the dimension of V will be the dimension of AT square, and whatever be the dimension of V will be the dimension of BT over C plus T. Okay, so from here, A, it will be equals to V over T square, and V velocity is having dimension of LT minus 1, and T, it means T square. So the dimension of A, it will be LT minus 3. Okay, so A will be LT minus 3. In the similar way, this B will be equals to LT minus 1, and C will be equals to T. So we have to find dimension of A, B, C, means A, B, C. It will be equals to LT minus 3, LT minus 1, and T. So it will be equals to L square T minus 3. So dimension of A, B, C will be equals to L square T minus 3 and M0. So M0 L square T minus 3 means option C is the correct. Okay. Now question 33. Given below are two statements. One is labeled as assertion A and the other is labeled as reason R. Okay, so we are given that assertion choke coil is simply a coil having a large inductance but a small resistance. Choke coils are used with fluorescent mercury tube fittings. If household electric power is directly connected to a mercury tube, the tube will be damaged. Okay. So I think this statement is correct since, let us say, this is current I, this is inductance R, coil, and this is resistance R. So it is saying that, and let us say this is voltage V. So the assertion is true, and it is saying that a choke coil is, it is simply a coil having a large inductance but a small resistance, and they are used with the fluorescent mercury tube fitting. So this assertion is true, and the reason is given that by using the choke coil the voltage across the tube is reduced by a factor this. Okay, if we talk about the current, we know that V equals to IR. So the current I will be V over R, and for this, the current will, the resistance will be V over under root R square. Since we are using a coil having inductance L, so it will be equals to omega square plus L square. So VR will be equals to this R over under root of R square plus omega square L square into this V. So the voltage across the tube is directly reduced by a factor of this R over R square plus omega square L square into V. It means the reason is also correct. Okay. So, and acha, if we have to find this is the correct reason for the assertion A, so I think the reason for the assertion A is not the correct reason. So for this, A is also true, and the reason for this is also true, but this reason is not the correct reason for the assertion A. So for this, option A, that is both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A is the correct answer. Now question 34. If lambda and k are the de Broglie wavelength and kinetic energy, respectively, of a particle with constant mass, the correct graphical representation of the particle will be. Okay, we know that for de Broglie wavelength, or we can say from the de Broglie hypothesis, lambda is equals to h over p, where h is the Planck's constant and p is the momentum, and we write p momentum in terms of kinetic energy as 2mk, and according to question the mass is constant. So if we square both sides, so it will be h square over 2mk. So from here we can write 1 over k is equals to 2m over h square into lambda square. So if mass is constant, so 2 is constant, m is constant, and h Planck's it is already a constant term. So we see that 1 over k is directly proportional to lambda square means it will form a parabola like path. It will form like this. So among these four options, this is the term which is making a parabola like path. So option D is the correct answer. Now question 35. Considered I1 and I2 are currents flowing simultaneously in two nearby coils 1 and 2 respectively. Okay, let us say there are two coils, and in these two coils, let us say I1 current is flowing in this and I2 current is flowing in this coil. And if L1 equals to cell inductance of coil 1 and M12 is the mutual inductance of coil 1 with respect to 2. L1 is the self inductance, okay, of coil 1, and M12 is the mutual inductance of coil 1 with 2. So then the value of induced EMF in the coil 1 will be, okay. So we know that the magnitude of the induced EMF due to self inductance is equals to L di by dt. Okay, and here I1 is the current. So we can write di1 by dt. And the magnitude of the induced EMF due to mutual inductance is M di2 by dt. Okay, so to find the value of induced EMF in coil will be induced EMF in coil 1. It will be, since we know that the current which produces the EMF, the EMF is such that it always opposes the current due to which it is produced. Na? So for this we will use the negative sign. So negative of L1 di1 over dt minus this M12 because M12 is the mutual inductance. So M12 di2 by dt is the correct statement for the value of induced EMF in coil 1. So for this E1 equals to minus L1 di1 by dt minus M12 di2 by dt is the correct answer. Means option 1 is the correct answer. Now question 36. Given below are two statements, what is labeled as assertion A and the other is reason R. Okay. Assertion is saying that electromagnetic wave carry energy but not momentum. This is a very false statement because we all know that electromagnetic wave carry both energy as well as the momentum. And the reason is given as mass of a photon is 0. This is the reason is correct because we all know that the rest mass of the photon is always 0. Okay. So A1 is false, but R1 is true. So option B is the correct answer. That is A is false, but R is true. Now question 37. An electric dipole of mass m, charge q and length L is placed in a uniform electric field E equals to E naught iota cap. Since it is iota cap means the electric field is in the x direction. Okay, let us say this is x direction. When the dipole is rotated slightly from its equilibrium position and released. Let us say this is an electric dipole which is placed here, it is minus q and here it is plus q, and its mass is m. Okay, and if it is slightly rotated and then released, okay, then the time period of the oscillation will be, okay, length is given as L, so from here it will be L by 2 and here also it will be L by 2. Okay, we know that time period is equals to 2 pi under root of moment of inertia I over PE, and here in this case moment of inertia I will be m into L by 2 whole square since there are two masses into 2. Okay, so it will be m L square over 4 into 2. So it will be ml square over 2. So time period t will become 2 pi under root of ml square over 2 into PE. P is what? Q into L. So it will be QL into E. So when we solve it, we get 2 pi under root M L over 2Q into E. So time period T is equals to 2 pi under root ML over 2 Q into E. So according to this, option A is the correct answer. Okay. Now question 38, as shown below, a bob A of a pendulum having massless string of length R is released from 60° to the vertical. So we are given with a massless string and it is released 60° to the vertical. 60° to the vertical means the bob is like this at point A, let us say. And if it hits another bob of the half of the mass, let us say its mass is m, it hits another bob, let us say this bob is b, and it is at rest at a frictionless table in the center. Assuming elastic collision, the magnitude of the velocity of bob a after the collision will be, let us say this bob A having mass m is hitting this bob B and its mass is given as half of the mass of bob A. Okay. So before collision and after collision. So let us take first before collision. For the case of before collision, the velocity V will be equals to under root of 2gh. We all know this. Okay. So it will be under root of 2g and height will be, and it is saying the length of the string is r. So at this point, the length of the string will be this r by 2. So height will be r by 2. Okay, so it will be equals to 2 cancel out. It will be equals to under root of gr. Let us say this is first. Okay, now after the collision, after collision, the bob A is hitting bob B, means the bob A having mass m and it is hitting bob B which is having a mass of m by 2. Okay, so if let us say its velocity is v1 and its velocity is v2, so after the collision, by conservation of momentum, we can write initially before collision and after collision. Before collision, the mass is m and the velocity is u, and after collision, it will be equals to this m by 2 into v1 plus this m into v2. Okay, so it will be equals to 2mu, it will be equals to mv1 plus 2mv2. Okay, so m cancels out, so it will be 2u is equals to v1 plus 2v2. Okay, let us say this is equation number 2. Now according to question, assuming elastic collision, the magnitude of the velocity of bob A after the collision will be, elastic collision means E is equals to 1. If it is having elastic collision, then the initial velocity will be equals to difference between two velocities after the collision. Let us say this is equation number 3. Now putting this value here, since the collisions are elastic, so 2v1 minus v2, it will be equals to v1 plus 2v2. Now solving it, 2v1 minus 2v2 will be equals to v1 plus 2v2. So it will be equals to v1 is equals to 4v2. Okay. V1 is equals to 4v2. If V1 is equals to 4v2, by putting it in equation 3, we get U is equals to 4v2 minus v2, means U is equals to 3v2. Let us say this is fourth equation. U is equals to 3v2. If U is equals to 3v2, then v2 will be equals to U by 3, means it will be equals to 1 by 3 of, and initial velocity is what? Before collision, it is under root of 2gh, means under root of gr. So v2 will be equals to 1 by 3 under root of gr. So after the collision, the velocity of the bob A, since we are taking its velocity as v2, so after the collision, its velocity will become 1 by 3 root gr. 1 by 3 root gr means option A is the correct answer. Now question 39. We have to match the list 1 with list 2. Okay. So first one, it is saying electric field inside of a uniformly charged spherical shell. Okay. So if we talk about a uniformly charged spherical shell, we know that inside a uniform spherical shell, electric field is equals to 0. For this, E is equals to 0. So this A matches with third. Okay. And second, electric field at a distance r greater than 0 from a uniformly charged infinite plane sheet. So if there is a uniformly charged infinite plane sheet and it is having a charge density sigma, then we know that for this electric field formula is always sigma over 2 epsilon naught. Okay. So for this, the B matches with second. Okay. Now, third one is electric field outside of a uniformly charged spherical shell with charge density sigma. Okay. And radius r. So according this, there is a spherical shell. Its radius is r. And we have to find the electric field outside the uniformly charged spherical shell. Okay, so for the outside, we know that electric field is equals to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught charge over r square. So charge is q, and r, we have to find r greater than 0. So r square, q over r square. Okay, and here it is given as surface charge density sigma. We know that surface charge density sigma is equals to charge over area. Charge over area, since it is spherical, so area will be 4 pi r square. Okay, so from here we can write charge is equals to sigma into 4 pi r square. So now putting this value here in this equation, so for this E will be equals to 1 over 4 pi epsilon naught into Q. Q is given as sigma into 4 pi r square over r square. This 4 pi cancels out, and this will be okay. Okay, the radius is capital R, na? So it will be R square, capital R square. So it will be capital R square. So from here we can write E is equals to sigma into capital R square over small r square. Okay, so electric field will be sigma capital R square over small r square. So here in list 2, no option matches with the third one. If in the fourth one it is capital R square over R square, then only this C matches with the fourth one. Okay, so here is a mistake. And the D1 is saying that electric field between oppositely charged infinite plane parallel sheet with uniform surface charge density sigma. We know that the between the infinite plane parallel sheet, if we talk about infinite plane parallel sheet, and in between we know that electric field is equals to sigma over epsilon naught. So the D matches with the first. Okay, so in this, A matches with third, and B matches with second, C matches with 4 if there is capital R square, then only, and D matches with the first. So according to this, A matches with third, B matches with second, C matches with 4, and D matches with first. Then only option B is the correct answer. Only when in option 4 there is given sigma capital R square over small r square, then only option B is the correct answer. Now question number 40. The frictional compression delta V over V of a water at depth of 2.25 kilometer below the sea level is, okay, given the bulk modulus is, we have to find the fractional compression. Okay, it is 2.5, 2,5, not it is 2.5. Okay, so we know that bulk modulus B, it is equals to change in the pressure over delta V over V. Okay, minus of delta B, sorry, bulk modulus B, it is equals to delta P over minus of delta V over V. Okay, so we have to find the fractional compression delta V over V. So from here we can write delta V over V, it is equals to delta P over bulk modulus B. So P, change in the pressure, delta P, it will be equals to rho GH. Okay, rho GH over bulk modulus B. So rho GH, density is of water is given as 10 to the power 3 into G, 10 into height H. H is given as water at a depth of 2.5. So 2.5 kilometer means into 10 to the power 3 meter over this bulk modulus. It is given as 2 into 10 to the power 9 Newton per meter square. So when we solve it, we get this will give 0 here. So 20 over 25 means 5 5s are 25, 5 4s are 20. So it will be 5 by 4 into 10 to the power 3 plus 3 plus 1, 6 plus 1, 7 minus 9. So it will be equals to 5 by 4 over 10 to the power minus 2 means it will be equals to 1.25%. Okay. So the fractional compression ratio will be 1.25 means option A is the correct answer. Now next question 41. Given below are two statements. One is labeled as assertion A and the other is labeled as reason R. The assertion A is saying that emission of electrons in photoelectric effect can be suppressed by applying a sufficient negative electron potential to the electroemissive substance. Okay. And reason for this is given as a negative electric potential which stops the emission of electron from the surface of a photoemissive substance varies linearly with frequency of incident radiation. Okay. So I think assertion is true as well as the reason is true. Assertion saying that emission of electron in photoelectric effect can be suppressed by applying a negative electron potential. Okay, so we know that negative potential will slow the electrons, and if it is sufficient it will make the photocurrent zero, since we know that from photoelectric effect EV is equals to H minus phi naught work function. Okay, so if it is so, then negative electron potential, it will slow down the electrons and it will be sufficient to make the photoelectric current zero. Okay, and reason for this, and reason is given as negative electric potential which stops the electrons, the same as I am saying, it will slow down the flow of the electron and it will make the photocurrent zero. So both assertion and reason are correct, but reason is not the correct explanation of A. Okay, so for this option D, that is both A and R are correct, but R is not the correct explanation of A is the correct answer. Now question 42. Given below are two statements. Again, we are given with one assertion and one reason. Assertion is saying that the time period of a simple pendulum is longer at the top of a mountain than at the base of the mountain. Okay. And reason for this is given as the time of a simple pendulum decreases with increasing value of oscillation due to gravity and vice versa. So we know that for a simple pendulum the time t is equals to 2 pi under root of L over G. Okay, so time period of a simple pendulum is longer at the top of a mountain than at the base of the mountain. So we know that at top of the mountain, the gravity decreases. So if the gravity or oscillation at the top of the mountain decreases, then the time period increases. It means the assertion is true. And reason is saying that the time period of a simple pendulum decreases with increasing value of oscillation due to gravity and vice versa. So it is also correct. So I think both A and R are correct and R is the correct explanation of A. So option D is the correct answer. Now question 43. a coil of area A and n turns is rotating with angular velocity omega, okay, in a uniform magnetic field about an axis perpendicular to B. The magnetic flux phi and the induced EMF across it at an instant when B is parallel to the plane of the coil R. Okay, so it is a very simple formula based question. We know that the magnetic flux phi, it is equals to NBA cos theta. Okay, so, and we know that induced EMF E equals to what? Minus d phi by dt. Okay. So, in case of this, it will be equals to minus of NBA d by dt of cos theta. Okay. So, we know that d by dt of cos theta will be, and here angular velocity omega is given. So in place of theta, we can write omega into t. Okay. So it will become minus NBA d by dt of cos omega t. Okay. So from this induced EMF will become minus of NBA omega sine omega t. Okay. Since we are differentiating with respect to time, so induced EMF will become minus of NBA omega sine omega t. And it is saying we have to find the magnetic flux and induced EMF when B is parallel to the plane of the coil. So if B is parallel to the plane of the coil, then at time theta will become 90 degree. So if theta will become 90 degree, so cos 90 will be 0. So at that time, this uh, phi will be 0. At that time, this phi will be 0 and induce EMF E sine 90. So it will be equals to B A omega into N only. Okay. Since it is becoming parallel to the plane of the coil, so for parallel to the plane of the coil, theta will be 90 degrees. So cos 90 will be, magnetic flux will be equals to 0. And when sine 90 is 1. So this induced EMF will be equals to NBA omega. So our answer is phi is 0 and induced EMF is NAB omega in terms of the magnitude. So option D is the correct answer. Now question 44. Okay, we are given that there is a body of mass M and it is connected to a massless and unstretchable string goes in a vertical circuit or circle of radius R. Okay, under gravity G. So the other end of the string is fixed at the center of a circle. If the velocity at the top of the circular path is given as n root gr, where n is greater than equals to 1, then the ratio of the kinetic energy of the body at the bottom of to that at bottom to that of the top of the circle is. Okay. So we are given with a circle and it is saying that from the center an unstretchable string is attached. Okay, so the other end of the string is fixed at the center of it. If the velocity at the top of the circular path is, let us say, there is a circle and here a string is attached and a man is rotating this string. So let us say it is moving from here with the velocity of initial velocity v naught, and if the velocity at the top of the circular path, this velocity is given as n root gr. Okay. This velocity is given as n root gr. So we have to find the ratio of kinetic energy of the bottom at the bottom to that of the top. Okay, so at the bottom v naught will be equals to this v square plus this 2g into whole 2r. Okay, so it will be equals to v, and we are given with v equals to n root gr, and root gr square means n square into gr plus this 2g and 2r, so it will be 4 GR. Okay. So if we have to find the ratio, so kinetic energy at the bottom to kinetic energy at the top. At the bottom it is this under root of n square GR plus 4GR, under root of n square GR plus 4GR over at top. At top is n root GR. Okay. So uh kinetic energy is half mv square na, so we have to do the square of it. So if we do its square, so it will be n square gr plus 4gr divided by n square gr. Now taking this n square gr common, so it will be equals to okay, take only gr common. So if we take gr common, so it will be n square plus 4 over gr into n square. So this gr cancels out. So we get ratio of kinetic energy at the bottom to kinetic energy at the top. It will be n square plus 4 over n square. Means according to this, option A is the correct answer. Okay. Now next question 45. For the circuit shown above, equivalent gate is. Okay, so we have to find the output Y. So here it is A and here it is B. And it is a NAND gate. So it will be A dot B bar. Okay. And it is a NOR gate. So it will be A plus B whole bar. And again it is a NAND gate. So output Y will be AB bar into A plus B bar of whole bar. Okay, so solving it we get AB bar then again bar. So it will be AB. So according to Boolean algebra, so AB bar means X bar dot Y bar whole bar. It will be equals to X plus Y. So from here we can write AB plus A plus B. Okay, so when we solve it taking A common, so we can write A B plus 1 plus of B, and we know that B plus 1 is nothing but 1 from the Boolean algebra. So it will be A plus B. So it will be A plus B means summation means it will be an OR gate. Okay, so option B is the correct answer. Now, next question 46. Two light beams fall on a transparent material block at point 1 and 2 with angle theta 1 and theta 2 respectively. After refraction, the beams intersect at point 3, which is exactly on the interface at other end of the block. Given we are given that the distance between 1 and 2 is given as d, and the value of this d is given as 4 root 3 centimeter, and these angle theta 1 and theta 2 are equal and they are given as cos inverse n2 over 2 and 1, and we are given that the refractive index n2 is greater than the refractive index of the outside medium n1. Okay, so we have to find the thickness of the block in terms of the centimeter. So first of all, let us try to draw it. So we are given with a block. Let us assume that its thickness is t, and we are given this angle theta 1 and this angle theta 2, and the distance between this point, let us say this is point 1 and point 2, the distance between them is given as d. So first of all, draw a perpendicular here. So when a light incident at theta 1, after reflection it goes like this, then after internal reflection it goes like this. So let us assume this is angle r, angle of refraction. The outside medium refractive index is given as n1 and the inside refractive index is given as n2. Okay, so we will use Snell's law here. So from Snell's law, n1 outside medium refractive index, n1 sine 90 minus theta 1 it will be equals to N2 sine R. Okay. And we know that sine 90 minus theta is what? Cos theta. And so we can write here N1 cos theta 1 is equals to N2 sine R. Okay. And from here we are given that cos theta 1 is equals to N2 over 2N1. So putting the value here, N1 into N2 over 2N1, it is equals to N2 sine R. So N1 cancels out each other, N2 cancels out. So we get sine R is equals to 1 by 2. So solving it, and we get sine R is equals to sine 30 degree. So from here the R is equals to 30 degree. Okay. Now to find the thickness T, we can write tan R. Tan is perpendicular over base. If this whole distance is D, so this distance is D by 2. So tan R is perpendicular over base, means D by 2 over base. Base is this and this thickness is T. So tan R equals to D by 2 over T. So from here we can write T is equals to D over 2 tan R. Okay. So it will be equals to, and we are given with D equals to 4 root 3 na. So it will be 4 root 3 over 2 tan R. R is 30 degree. So it will be 1 by root 3. So we get 4 into 3 over 2. 2 to the 4 means T is equals to 6 centimeter. So the thickness of the block T is equals to 6 centimeter here. Okay. Now question 47. A container of fixed volume contains a gas at 27 degrees Celsius. To double the pressure of the gas, the temperature of the gas should raise to. Okay. So we are given with fixed volume, means volume is constant here. So applying the formula P1 over T1 is equals to P2 over T2, and we are given that the to double the pressure, means here P2 is equals to 2P1. So we can write P1 over T1 is equals to 2P1 over T2. So at first the temperature T1 is equals to 27 degrees Celsius, and we have to find T2 na. So from here P1 cancels out. So we get T2 is equals to 2T1. And since we are given temperature in terms of Celsius, so converting it in Kelvin, so 27 plus 273 means 300 Kelvin. So temperature T2 is equals to 2 into 300 means T2 temperature is equals to 600 Kelvin. So our answer is 600 Kelvin, means if we are asked to find in terms of the Celsius, so 600 minus 273. So it will be equals to 327 degree Celsius. Okay. So T2 is equals to 327 degrees Celsius. Now question 48. The maximum speed of a boat in still water is given as 27 kilometer per hour. Okay. We are given with still water, and a boat is floating on it, and the speed of the boat is given as, velocity of boat is given as 27 kilometer per hour. Now this boat is moving downstream in river flowing at 9 kilometer per hour. So the boat is flowing over the water, and this river is flowing at a speed of 9 kilometer per hour. So we can assume that the horizontal velocity, means Vx, will be equals to velocity of river plus this velocity of the boat. So it will be equals to 27 plus 9 means 36 kilometer per hour is the horizontal velocity. Now the next statement is that a man in the boat throws a ball vertically upwards with a speed of 10 meter per second. So on the boat there is a man, and he is throwing the ball in the upward direction with a speed of 10 meter per second, means we are given Vy equals to 10 meter per second. So range of the ball as observed by an observer at rest on the river bank. Okay, so there is a person who is sitting at the bank of the river. So we have to find the range of the ball which he will observe while sitting at the bank of the river. So if Vy component is 10 meter per second and Vx component is 36 kilometer per second, 36 kilometer sorry per hour, means 36 into 10 to the power 3 over r. First we have to convert this r in second, means 60 into 60. So solving it we get 36 into 10 to the power 3. 6 6 are 36 into 10 to the power 2. So 36 cancel out, 2 power cancels out. So we get 10 meter per second, means horizontal velocity is also 10 meter per second and vertical velocity is also 10 meter per second. So to find the range, we know the formula of the range. R is equals to 2 into vertical velocity over gravity into horizontal velocity. So it will be 2 vertical velocity into is 10, horizontal velocity is also 10 and gravity is considered as 10. So 10 cancels out. So 20 meter, means the range is 20 into 10 to the power 2, means 2000 centimeters. So the person which is sitting at the bank of the river will observe the range as 2000 centimeter. Okay. Now question 49. In a hydraulic lift, the surface area of the input piston is 6 centimeter square and that of the output piston is 1500 centimeter square. If 100 Newton force is applied to the input piston to raise the output piston by 20 centimeter, then the work done is, okay. So since it is a question of uh, piston, so here and surface area, so here we will apply the Pascal's law. So we know that from Pascal's law, the force over area is constant. So F1 over A1 will be equals to F2 over A2. So F2 will be here A2 over A1 into F1. So A2 is given as 1500 centimeter square, A1 is given as 6 centimeter square and F1 is given as 100 Newton. So F2 will be equals to this 15 into 10 to the power 4 over 6, okay, Newton. Now we have to find the work done. We know that work done is always force into displacement or force into distance. So it will be F2 into D2. F2 is this 15 into 10 to the power 4 over 6 into D. And we are given that if 100 Newton force is applied to the input piston to raise the output piston by 20 centimeter. So first of all convert this 20 into meter. So 20 over 100. So solving it we get 2 3s are 6, 3 5s are 15. So it will be 5 into 10 to the power 5 minus 2. So it will be 5 into 10 to the power 3. Means 5 kilojoule work will be done. Okay. To raise the output piston by 20 centimeter, we have to do the work 5 kilojoule. Okay. Now question number 50. The coordinates of a particle with respect to origin in a given reference frame is 111 meters. Okay, we are given the coordinates as 111. If a force of, we are given force as iota cap minus j cap plus k cap acts on the particle, then the magnitude of the torque. Okay, so it is a very simple formula based question. We know that torque is equals to R cross F. Okay, so just do the cross product here. I cap, J cap and K cap. R is given as 111, means 111 and it will be 1 minus 1 and 1. So solving it we get tau is equals to iota cap 1 plus 1 plus j cap 1 minus 1 plus k cap minus 1 minus 1. So in z direction, so we have to find the component of z, means For z direction, the component will be minus of 2k cap. So our answer is minus 2k cap. Okay.